All right, welcome to Nigeria Unfiltered, a symphony podcast. And our guest on today's edition of the program is an officer of the Federal Republic, a professor of business studies at the University of Abuja Business School, as well as a visiting professor of entrepreneurial studies at the Anambra University Business School, Oka. He is the chairman of United Nigeria Airlines Limited, a Russian-trained academic, cum business mogul. Professor Obiora Okonkwo is also the spokesman of Airline Operators of Nigeria, the umbrella pressure group of the major operators in the airline industry, which has been at the forefront of pushing for seamless operations of the sector as the fulcrum of economic growth of Nigeria. Prof, good to have you on Symphony
today. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. I hope we'll find something else to talk other than aviation today.
Certainly. You are speaking as a Nigerian. Yeah. Aviation is just a tip of it. We are focusing as a Nigerian. All right, let's start this way. How do you react to the successful rescue of the 46 abducted school children and teachers in Oyo State after 56 days in captivity?
I think my reaction was just like many other concerned citizens, a sign of relief. And really great gratitude to Almighty God who has saved the lives of all those innocent Nigerians who were just somewhere doing what they have to do, and for no fault of theirs, they became a victim of those kidnappers. And at the same time also, I applauded all the security agencies who were involved in all the processes that led to their especially the DSS that seemed to have provided all the intelligence. I tried to know more about the happenings around that kidnapping, and I understand that this had happened in a remote area of Oyo State. And some time ago, not once, but twice in two different occasions, there were some useful intelligence from the DSS for the school to be closed down, which means they had the capacity to know that there were some evil plots going on. And obviously, the intelligence was well utilized and they closed down the school, and those people did not succeed. So whatever led to this eventual successful kidnapping, I want to believe it was not because of lack of intelligence, but it was a matter of how well it was utilized. So that actually gave me a great joy that we still have an agency in Nigeria that know what their job is and doing it the way it should be done to a very large extent. So, and if you see another pattern here, we didn't hear about ransom paid. It became now obvious that the government of President Tinubu is making practical their stand not to pay ransom. Obviously, some people might have their own opinions, but as long as we continue to make kidnapping a lucrative business, bearing in mind that some part of this kidnapping more, especially, is for economic reasons. If we continue to empower them through paying huge ransoms, then obviously you are also abating and supporting the crime. So this is a practical demonstration of it. But by and large, I continue to wonder. You see, when these kidnappers look for soft targets, vulnerable population, in a place that I am very surprised to hear commonly in Nigeria, ungoverned area. I've had that. I don't know if you've had that. Sure. Ungoverned part of the state or part of Nigeria. That makes me wonder, how can we have a country where you have the president, when you have the governor, and when you have the local government officers, chairmen, and then you have the councillors who have budgets, and where 60 to 70% of the national resources now are in the sub-nationals, and one is still talking about an ungoverned part of Nigeria. That's really a concern I want to raise with this incident now that it has come and gone. Under no circumstances should we have any part of the country ungoverned. It is not designed to be so. And this is just simply because we have put in so much focus all the time in what happens in Abuja, regardless of who is the president. It's not about what party now. It is not about who is the president. That's not my interest. But more often than not, I've seen Nigerians talk more about what the president, whoever is the president, is not doing. But there are territories that are supposed to be exclusively protected, security provided, if not by the state, by the local government, or by the council. Because these people that had come to that remote part of that state they have not threatened the sovereignty of this country. No. As a matter of fact, where you expect a deployment of national forces, presidential intervention, security from the center, is where our sovereignty is threatened. But not when a community is in trouble, when there is a tribal issue within some ethnic conflicts, and we're all looking up to whoever is the president at whatever time that person is in also rock.
All right, let's look at why people tend to call on the federal government always. When you talk about FAC allocation, the federal government controls 52% of revenue allocation to the country, and the subnationals control about 48%. And then when you also look at the issue of the autonomy of the local government, the court has ruled on that, but government has not been able to enforce that. Who do we blame? And so much money in their hands. So that's why everybody seems to look at the federal government when there are issues.
Well, that's where I've tried to address this a little bit. This government has gone beyond what the previous government in the past had done to go to Supreme Court. Supreme Court had pronounced. Honestly speaking, I do not expect the federal government to deploy the army and the police to the states to implement that. We, the citizens, the governed, should blame ourselves. We should blame ourselves for letting the governors go about, rulers, manage our affairs and our resources like emperors. My uncle, late Chinua Achebe, had written that the problem of Nigeria is leadership. I agree. It was leadership, but remains leadership. But there are aspects you will look at it. I can easily say that probably if he's alive today, he may have reviewed that his position, that even the greater problem are the governed, the people. Why is it that we are quick to criticize whether it's Jonathan or Buhari or Tinubu in power, but we don't say anything about our governors and only resign to fate that the governors do what they want? They choose projects they want to do. They install successors they want to success. It is a high time I would like us to have a rethink and say, wait a minute. The resources of this state, if you look at what has been going to the state since this Tinubu administration, if it's no more than double, unless it is up to 60% more than what it used to be. I want to see more of critics calling out the governors. Beyond that fact allocation, they also have internally generated revenue. We know how much federal government has borrowed, how much is being wasted, if it is at all wasted, or where we question what we have used with the resources. Are we aware that the state government borrow money too? What do we talk about?
All right, let's look at beyond the typical kinetic and non-kinetic strategies employed by security agencies. What are some of the behind-the-scenes efforts involved in rescuing kidnapped victims, even when it seems ordinary Nigerians do nothing or don't think that government is doing enough?
I can only talk about what is typical because, I don't speak for government, and I may not be privy of what the government is doing, but what I can induce from the outcome of this rescue in Oyo, there must have been a whole lot of intelligence gathering. And then further revelations also showed that the family members, wives, children of those kidnappers were arrested and have been in the custody of the DSS. So if you have to put that together, what it means is that DSS had demonstrated enough intelligence to know who the kidnappers are. Maybe those people are in their watch list or their log. So when that happens, normally what you do in such a situation is that you identify who they are. Why do they kidnap? All right? Are they kidnapping? Some people kidnap for different purposes, right? Maybe they kidnap to negotiate for release of their member. They kidnap to ask for money, or as the case may be. So there must have been great intelligence. Kudos to DSS. And then, for them to arrest their family members, I want to believe also they have a communication channel with those kidnappers for them to be able to say, hey, you got these children, I got yours. If anything happens to anyone, then consider your own people gone. Because the biggest kidnappers could be state. You know what I mean? I want to believe that that's probably what had, at the point those people were in the custody of DSS, my imagination is that was when we stopped seeing those gruesome photographs of people under torture and then, killing. That was a very smart move. It's commendable, and that's a new system and approach. So with them in their custody, if these people now would ask for money, they would be able to say, I won't give you money. Kidnappers are human beings. They're normal people who kidnap, get proceeds of their kidnapping, go back to the society, attend to their family issues, attend to their communities. They love their own families and they want them to live. I'm also aware from the report available that at some point they had requested release of some of their leaders who were in the custody of the DSS. They didn't get that happen this time. Yes, it is not out of place. There are some kidnappers who just kidnap for that purpose. And then it depends on how the people involved want to deal with it. Then they take a decision either to release or not to release. But in this case, they didn't. And for them not to do, it shows that the government was in a very comfortable position. They got those people, like they say, by the balls. And it ended the way it ended.
All right, let's look at Nigerians talking about hardship in the land. The government's economic reforms are not impacting on them. If you are to advise President Tinubu on his economic reforms, what exactly can you tell him to make these reforms less harsh on Nigerians?
I wouldn't say again that I have a solution to the problems. And even if I have that solution that should be magical, I would like to sit down with Mr. President to discuss how much he will pay me. How much he will pay me to give him that, because, it should not be free. It shouldn't be free.
As a patriotic Nigerian.
But I think really that as a concerned Nigerian, we're all patriots in a whole. You are, a lot of people are. I really want us to understand that there's still so much that can be done to make this country better beyond what Mr. President or federal government can do. From the statistics available, I can tell you that it's obvious a lot of things seem to be happening. When this government came in, I know it. It may not be a public information. We probably have less than $3 billion in our foreign reserve. That's one of the biggest problems we had in this country. I know that. Today we have it in the area of 50 billion. And with that amount of buffer, it's like you had an empty purse. There are certain shock things you must have to do to survive. Whether it's removing the fuel subsidy, which was a political agenda of every other political party. You remember? Even during Jonathan, he had attempted to do that, but it's just that he couldn't withstand the opposition protest against it, which the opposition themselves knew they were doing the wrong thing. They were not calling for that protest in the interest of Nigeria. But it's just that the government of the day was not able to stand firm, because that would have been... And Jonathan had a better plan to implement that. But this one now came without a buffer. We had woken up in this country when, if you are pricing for yam by 9 a.m., the seller is telling you this is the price for now. If you are not buying in 1 hour, when you come back, I will tell you another price. Whether you are buying a television. So a product in Nigeria could have 4 or 5 prices between 8 to 6 p.m. in a day. You are witness to that. Instability due to the currency that was changing. Rates. Even market women in the villages, they would rather keep their money in dollar. So there was so much pressure on Naira. Today we've had a stability. For the last 1 year, you can easily plan that this is happening because this is the rate and so on. With that fluctuations, no business partner deals with you. At least I know for us in aviation business. These parameters on the economic ground is enough to trigger all other positives. But it's not enough to trickle down to these masses now. We are thinking of how could they be impacted. You're correct. There are a lot of sufferings in the land. When all these things were happening some few years ago, I gave an interview that we must not allow these things to get into agri sector. There were certain critical intervention government policies that were in place for the agri sector before the coming of this administration. Some of them were coming through the CBN and all that. They were all removed. It was a very dangerous policy. If people are able to eat, right, offer their 3 square meal or even 2, and able to go to their work and come back, there would have been less pressure. You don't play with people's stomach. I really think that, again, it boils down to what the states do. Some of these citizens who are mostly affected by the economic hardship are living in the rural areas. Greater percentage of our population are in the states and local government. So the question, you have the right question, you are right to ask, what should the president do? But I would like us to be adding in our thought process, what are the governors doing? We must not take away our eyes from the states.
All right, in the last couple of weeks now, this controversy has refused to die down, and that is the allegation against the chief of staff to the president, fake agency, fake, the one they call impostor, who is superintending over a ministry that does not exist. What are your thoughts about things like this about Nigeria having a budget allocated to him in the 2026 Appropriation Act and involving a high officer like the chief of staff to the president? Allegation anyway. What are your thoughts?
Well, like you rightly said, it remains an allegation. And National Assembly had not confirmed that they made that appropriation. So for that reason, until we're able to know who appropriated and how we got to the budget. But that in itself, again, underscores the concern of many that there are a whole lot of untidy things going on in our budgetary system. And I still wonder why, again, the public, the citizens, have not really made this a great topic, not just to talk about it. Because an appropriation is an act of law. What is appropriated is a law. Any violation has its own consequences, right? Any contradiction has to be referred back to the National Assembly for violence. But today, we still find it difficult to know even what the budget is. What amount spent out of the budget, the percentage of actualization, is a big concern. I don't think that anybody can call those people involved to order more than the citizen. The press. I am really worried. If this could happen, then a lot of people, if at all the investigation shows that indeed this agency came up, indeed they received a budget, beyond even the concern about the financial misappropriation, this individual took position in certain sensitive parts of this. Our government had meetings. It is a high level of insecurity, right? This issue should also be looked at from the point of insecurity, because some people could just penetrate, and these discussions are only going on like from the aspect of who took what to who took which money. It's a great security threat if it could happen in our system. And I don't have the details of it. The investigations are still going on. It's not something I will want to speculate, but such matters should worry us beyond the aspect of the financial part of it. It's a serious national security issue, if at all that the government is not aware of it. But if in any event that those people who are denying were aware, then it's a simple, corrupt practice. I will feel better with that, but I really think that government should look into that. And if there are people who encourage that within the government system, that's a lesser concern for me, because it's not a one-way issue, which is corruption. But if at all they were not, and somebody was able to come and plot all these things and made it happen, then anybody may show up one day as who is not, and get close to number one leader of this place and do what needs not to be done. Because for me, whoever is the president of this country is the president of Nigeria. You know what I mean? I don't really care who is. So anything that will infiltrate people into our system, our bureaucracy, is a very serious security threat. And it's a high time we start taking security very, very seriously. It is just like the case of Nigerians, rightly so, calling out the government for going overseas for medical checkup. That's really very, very shameful. But again, another aspect that someone like me think of when I sit down in my quiet moment is that when a president of a nation like ours had fortified himself, whoever the president is, in Aso Rock, because Aso Rock was built to protect, whoever president lives there. And then with all the armies and everything to secure him, and all of a sudden for health purposes, This president now travels, leaves the fortress to a foreign country without the security, with one or two persons, and then walk into a clinic that has no special security arrangement and gets lie down in a closed door with somebody who is not even cleared security part of the president, and surrender yourself and your life to that person. I want us to also be thinking about it. I don't care who the president is. You know what I'm saying? The president, I am a very proud Nigerian. I would not want, I would not want to live and hear that my president surrendered himself to the wrong hands and anything. I don't care who the president, I don't care whatever political party, but as a patriotic Nigerian, this is required of all of us. That's a very serious issue, but we only think of it from the issue of not having health facilities and going abroad. What about that? Look at what happened recently, last week. American president going to Turkey with one Air Force One, and then for some intelligence, returning with another Air Force One, right? Did you see that? So you can imagine, for him who had told us in the world that he's on #1 hit list, making himself vulnerable, but going to a place that is not properly secure. Every president should be as secured as wherever he is. That's why some people understand. It doesn't matter. Some people might say, we don't have an enemy. It just doesn't take being an enemy. It just takes being you. How do you assess your country? What do you think you are worth, right? No, you are belittling your state if you are just reckless. It goes with a whole lot of things. Being a president is just like appropriating, spending money, making appointments. No. Nigeria is a big state in Africa. The periphery of our president should just go beyond appointments and approval of payments. No, we should add all those things. There are add-ons that are necessary. This is my wish for my country, Nigeria. This is the level I think we should be going.
All right, currently, Nigeria ranks 142 out of 182 countries on Transparency International's 2025 Corruption Perception Index. Considering this, are you not worried about the impact of these scandals, allegations on Nigeria's image and economy and effort attracting foreign investors?
It is really very, very critical. And for people like us who have a whole lot of interest beyond this country in terms of business relationship, some people venturing into a country with such devastating Transparency International record is like asking them to go and then consume something that will take their life. So some people will just wake up that if you think of doing any business with them as a Nigerian, all they need to do is to open up official government pages, advisories of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the government, where to invest, where not to invest, security situation in those countries. And if this person has dollar to invest, it's the same dollar, why should he invest it in a place that has such damning reports? When he flips the other side of the coin, here is another country with all the positives, where he will go without stress and not worry. And you see some people, when they're investing in certain countries, they also have insurance, that covers their investment. And if you go, when those warnings are out there, it's just another way to say if you go there, you're on your own. So they know there is a higher risk apart from the stress and then the probability that you might get your hand burned in scandal of corruption. So it is really very, very worrisome. Personally, in my own business, I'm a victim because in aviation, certain reports globally had affected our own progress here in Nigeria. You have to prove yourself 10 times more than any other person in the same business in some parts of the world. And sometimes, even when at the end of the day, you're 10 times effort, that they look at yourself, your records, your accounts, KYC, and everything is 101% okay. They will applaud you, but they will be quick to politely tell you, but we are sorry. The country risk is usually way higher than your own personal credibility. So that knocks you off. I've had a situation where we had a lessor. This lessor had negotiated back-to-back an aircraft. He wanted to take an aircraft from a company overseas who wouldn't give to us because we're Nigerians and operating in Nigeria. But it was okay to sublease the aircraft to another person in another country to us. So it was a back-to-back negotiation. He wouldn't lease to me even if I was supposed to make 6 months deposit. So this person was counting on us to give him money to be able to lease from the other primary lessor. At some point, we did not agree on certain terms. But just because that other lessor is from another country, talking to that primary lessor, that primary lessor had already painted the aircraft in the livery, the decal of that other lessor, waiting for, without paying one kobo, because he was waiting for us to pay him to pay. But when we fell out with him, he could not pick the aircraft. Those lessors know us. We are talking to them. We have the photo of the aircraft painted already in delivery of the man who paid him nothing. So sometimes we pay huge price for coming out of this country and for reports of this nature. So I hope that sometime, hopefully one day, we will have leaders who understand that no matter the face they put up, no matter public explanation they give to this, that this matter. And they will work hard to start changing this kind of perceptives, not only on the pages of newspapers, but in reality.
You earlier alluded to the fact that we have weak opposition.
I see this opposition team crying far more against what the incumbent government is doing to them. That's strange. Because the incumbent government in any country, part of his agenda is not to do things, is not to spare the opposition, as long as it's done within the rules. So it is you who should be able to start with, for you to be in opposition. It should be fortified to take what is thrown at you. Take it, refine it, enlarge it, and throw it back to the people in power, because they have, they are more insulated. The absorbing power is bigger than yours. So I really think that the opposition here is focusing more on taking over power, right, than holding the government accountable. That is why they had left a lot of gap from the first day this government was sworn in, right? And only rising from slumber at this wee hour of general election. You see where the problem is. I appreciate the fact that being in opposition has its own tactics, has its own skill. It's not an easy task. There are people who are better fortified and more knowledgeable in opposition game than others. But some people who lose the election see more or less themselves as we wait for the next time, and when the time comes, they come back to full election process. So we have not really seen formidable opposition in the real sense of it. Yes, I think a lot can be done more than what we're doing. Now, what is going on, just election gimmicks.
You're a member of the ruling party. So do I want to argue that your position is informed because you're a member of the ruling party?
I am here as a non-partisan Nigerian, so my views that I'm expressing here is based on my knowledge, which is outside politics.
There are those who argue that the present government is trying to muzzle the opposition to the point that there wouldn't be any credible challenge to President Tinubu in 2027. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think that any government in any country is not doing anything to muzzle the opposition. But the only difference is the strength of the opposition to withstand the strategy of the government in power to muzzle it. Right? It's just like in a boxing ring. Your survival depends on your strength, right? To absorb the punches. And also your ability to return with stronger punch. That's just simple analogy. So it's a gimmick that has always been there. But how do you withstand that? I'll tell you, for instance, if you remember, I'm not defending any side now, but I'm just, an informed Nigerian. Don't forget I have a PhD in political science, so I'm well informed politically and knowledgeable. Once upon a time, during Jonathan era, we remember the ICPC trial of, some corrupt tribunal against Tinubu? Remember?
Code of conduct.
Code of conduct against Tinubu. Was there no prosecution he did not face? Do you know? It was, the opposition was using their position in a statecraft. It's a statecraft. You can only say there is none if you're ignorant. a government in power have a way to use other government things in a statecraft to their advantage, right? It's there all over the world. But you see, this Asowaju then, because he had his own strength, could take it, withstood it, and escaped that. You remember, it was not designed by the opposition for him to escape. Okay, keep Tinubu apart. The last election in America, was there anything that was not thrown at Trump? Who would have survived it? Who would have survived it, for Christ's sake? Who? That's why sometimes somebody like me will say, Trump is a servant of God. Because to survive every obstacle that was laid before him, even charges, convictions, and remained in the election, it was enough. I mean, in America, typically, somebody shows up to run for office. All his life, he had never had any case. And boom, you see people here and there accusing him of sexual offense, right? Few days after, he gives a press conference and withdraws from the race. You never hear that case again. Where do opposition leave people walk freely in a political context? It took only people like Trump. So then the opposition here in Nigeria should get the strength, resilience of Trump. They may not probably go by his ways, but you need that. It just being in opposition is not for it's not for babies, you know. So I really think that it is the rule of the game. But we are quick, both the press, the media people like you, will only stop at telling us how much Naira was, the value of Naira during Jonathan, the cost of bag of rice during Jonathan, how much we are paying for fuel. You just stop there. They're not doing us a favor. You have to get to the root of it, make the analysis so that people will learn from it. Because we were convinced that God gave us anything but not Jonathan, right? Was it not?
Well, but some persons.
It was just because the opposition was formidable, well organized, and very professional.
I agree with you, but the media also walk that route because they want a simple way that the citizens can understand. What translates to impact is the citizens being able to eat 3 square meals, being able to, the same amount you paid from morning going to work is what you pay coming back. So they feel that if the difference is so much, why don't we return to the old era or old order than the present order?
Great. But the same media were also helping to orchestrate that regime now they are praying to return to. Because some people were able to mobilize the media, which is also part of weapon of opposition, and sell their own position to the media, that the headlines were short of just calling for the head of the president then. So like I said, it was a good job. Even when the opposition leaders today then will even say, they have said by themselves, though we knew, we didn't mean it. It was propaganda. We didn't mean it. That's propaganda. That is part of the rule of the game. They said today, it was propaganda. They came with it. The people fell for it. So
we should blame the opposition for not doing enough.
Oh, today? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's obvious. They should not. They stop crying for. I mean, like I said, it's not the duty It's not the duty of government to power to go and make bed, for the opposition and, keep them, give them food, feed them. No. They have to be throwing at them what they have.
All right, sincerely speaking, what do you dislike about politics in Nigeria of today as against what you observed under PDP and Obasanjo between 1999 and 2007?
In 1999 and 2007, we still had some remnants of the first, second republic politicians who were part of the political ecosystem. In these people, they were seasoned, they were groomed. Good number of them did not just take politics as a commercial process. They were patriots. Some of them were part of the people that fought for our independence. They were undoubtedly patriots, and they carried out the practice of politicking with all sense of responsibility. There were those remnants. Today, there are little or none of them in the system. But those that emerged in between and after them have a different understanding of what politics is all about. To them, politics is just fight for power by all means, grab it, enrich yourself, fight your enemies, and then stay there forever. That is what we are going on. That is what's going on, and that's the difference.
All right, let's begin to wind down. Let's drag you into Anambra politics a little. You entered the Anambra governorship race last year, but pulled out at the last minute. How did you change your mind so suddenly, or what chased you out?
Well, maybe you need to get your facts right. I was not only in Anambra race last year.
I know you've been there before,
and I've been around.
So I just tried to bring it the latest one.
Well, I think that for me, politics is for no other reason than looking for a platform to impact lives, a platform to use to do more of what I'm already doing in my private life, contributing to development of the nation, being of service to people. For someone who has thousands of employees with high sense of responsibility, paying them every month, creating wealth, paying taxes, adding to the economic growth. Ordinarily, I have enough things to do from now till I stop working or stop breathing by the virtue of my own personal business and all that. But knowing that I understand, I have a first degree in economics and national development, I understand that very well. Going into having PhD in political science, understand those dynamics. And then knowing that leadership today have more people who just want to get power and rule and make money than those who are prepared. I am really prepared. I went to university in a country, university dedicated for leaders, world leaders. I studied. So every education in that area is just how to go back home and develop. If you know the history of People's Friendship University in Russia, that was where I studied. They selected great minds from different parts of the world and trained them to go back and be good leaders to their nation. So having been trained in that manner, I understand leadership, and knowing that I know how to make things better, I cannot force myself. That's now coming to the question. I can't force myself to be there. I can't give those positions to myself to be governor. But the only thing I've sworn to myself and my God is that I can never be indifferent. I cannot be indifferent. It's something I cannot just be, no matter how comfortable I am. So making myself available when I consider it necessary and for position I think that can make me, can give me a better opportunity to act, is part of it.
So obviously, Anambra has not seen the last of you. You are just sitting back, look at things, recalibrate, and relaunch.
Politics is not a profession for me. So I don't play politics from January to December and then, every day of my life. No, I am properly employed, like I said, and gainfully engaged. But I believe that service to people, for me, is opportunity to glorify the face of God on earth. And the only ambition I have, I've said it publicly, I've written it in my book and everything, one ambition only, to go to heaven. And if any other thing I'm embarking on that is not smoothing the road to heaven, God will never allow that to happen. So I still see that service to people is godly. Is what is required of us by God to do.
All right, let's wrap up. Congratulations on the acquisition of 2 additional aircraft to the fleet of United Nigeria Airlines. Is your 5th going to your 6th year of operation in the sector? Looking back, what has been the significance of this for you?
For me, I think that being on the 6th year of operation of United Nigeria, despite all the odds from the starting, history I've told severally that started in the middle of COVID, and then weathering the storm of the turbulent economic somersault in Nigeria, and all that, and continue to operate and scaling up, growing in our fleet and operations and expanding our routes locally, regionally, and now working on internationally. That's significant enough. And I can tell you that for people outside, they cannot understand what a typical operator in Nigeria has gone through in the last 5 years and this current year. You can only imagine that.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure having you around.
Thank you. Thank you.